we know the tendency of war comes up whenever there are elections. So as WACC, we decided that, to help as a church, we were to embark on rallying, wherein we get peace-packed messages. We rally around the main, violent hotspots in the countries with peace message, encouraging young people to go to the poll and vote and get back to their places without causing any harm to each other.
Welcome to this episode of the Global Methodist Conversations on Discipleship. My name is Mighty Rasing. I'm the Director of Central Conference Relationships at Discipleship Ministries. In this episode, I am going to talk with Senesie Timothy Aruna Rogers, a young leader from the United Methodist Church in Sierra Leone, which is in the West Africa Central Conference. And so we will talk about his growth as a young leader in the church and the many different ways that he is working with young people in Sierra Leone. Enjoy. Senesie Timothy Aruna Rogers, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being available and being willing to join me in this call so that we can talk about your ministries, specifically with the young people in Sierra Leone and in the UMC in Sierra Leone. So can you tell us a bit about yourself, your country, where you're from, and the work that you do for the church?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I am Senesie Timothy Aruna Rogers. I am the chairperson for the West African Central Conference on Youth and Young Adult Affairs. I am resident in Sierra Leone, but I work with the young people in West Africa.
I would like to begin by asking you about your faith story. How did you get involved in the church? And eventually, how did you become a leader of the young people in Sierra Leone?
It all started, I was born and bred in the church, the United Methodist Church, But coming to work with the young people was a choice made by the young people. Being in the ministry, particularly, was to see how best we could rally around the young people, to get them together, to come and at least embrace and work with the Episcopal decision, together with the directorate, the Youth and Young Adult Directorate. So that was how I got myself in active leadership for the young people. So after that, from my annual conference, the need for us to go and work at WACC again arose. And I was an automatic delegate because that's what the provision states, that all immediate presidents, national presidents, were automatic delegates. And there is a tradition as well at the WACC. We met that it was Sierra Leone that was to take over the chairmanship because it was rotational. Liberia had just served in that capacity, and it was Sierra Leone's turn to serve in the chairmanship.
Right. So before we talked about your role with the West Africa Central Conference Youth and Young Adult,
okay,
I'd like to ask you about your experience growing up in the UMC. You mentioned that you are essentially born into the United Methodist Church, right? So can you describe to me some of the ministries that you went through as a young boy and then eventually as a teenager? What are the kinds of ministries that you think helped you prepare to become a leader in our church?
As a boy, I was born in Bo, the second capital of Sierra Leone. And our church, the Tributes United Methodist Church, had a structure where you start from the good news. The good news is where you have the children growing up in the church. And interestingly, we never were part of the general congregation on Sundays. What we do is they take us to a classroom where we are taught the Bible, and we had to explain ourselves, what our understandings were about what we are taught. And that was the kind of thing that prevailed in my days, and it still continues today. So that's the culture. You start from the good news. From the good news, you get to the youth organization. From the youth organization, you get to the young adult organization. From the young adult organization, you get to the men's and women's organization, as the case may be. So that is it. But it all starts with the good news. And the good news was a kind of formative stage. And it's very vital in the life of each and every United Methodist in Sierra Leone, because there you learn the biblical readings, rhymes, and you get to know the Bible characters specifically. So the interaction was good. We had fun. We were kind of entertained in several respects at the good news stage. So that's how
this
it
is
works.
like a Sunday school, a gathering where there is a classroom, there are several children learning together, and there's a teacher sharing about the Bible and about the faith that we have.
That is it. But
Right.
what we didn't really get to know at the good news stage was what the United Nations was all about. All we were taught there were the Bible characters and their importance to life and the different celebrations of the religion.
So is this
Yeah.
kind of children's ministry still ongoing in Sierra Leone?
Um, yes, I suppose it is still ongoing. It is still ongoing, but with time, the names have changed, just as
Right.
you are saying.
How about your youth ministry? What kinds of ministries are happening with youth? And you can also talk about the ministries that happen with young adults. So is there a similar gathering like the Good News for youth, or is
Yes,
there a different
yeah,
kind?
yeah. Well, the good news had the general gathering where the United Methodist countrywide meets every year. It's called the Youth Camp. The Children's Camp, sorry. That is where each and every good news um, group from different districts meet yearly. There we go and learn about the Bible, and our skills and talents are tested individually because we are placed by groups and houses when it gets to the children's camp. So that was a kind of gathering that we met with various United Methodists countrywide.
Right.
And it was a gathering that really kind of was a bit emotional because I could remember when each and every person was at the verge of leaving the gathering, we could all kind of burst into tears and all. So the connectedness that the children's camp created, I guess, was the greatest, and it remains the greatest till date.
How about for youth and young adults? What kinds of events at the maybe the national level or the district and the local church? What kinds of events, programs, and ministry happens with young people?
These are the structures in the youth ministry that are very vital countrywide. Because the moment you get into the youth organization, you begin to hear about local fellowship organization, you begin to hear about district organizations, you begin to hear about national organizations. And at this stage, people begin to grow ambitions, people begin to make friends, people begin to make enemies at the same time. So at this stage, the idea of really talking the Bible is not as much as that which we get from the good news. But only the important thing is that we get into scriptures, particularly at local levels, because we have from time to time Bible classes that is based on, well, the leadership at the time. Because if you get an executive that is passionate about the things of the Bible, they will set up events, that are not normally part of the structure for us to meet, right? But if you're unfortunate to meet an executive that does not place premium on having Bible studies, then you can just do it for yourself, as the case may be. But we do have revivals. And most importantly, at this stage, just as we have the children's camp at the good news level, there is a youth camp at this very stage, and it's very important. And it is the most attended gathering that I have ever witnessed in Sierra Leone.
So when you
because
say the youth camp, does that happen in a local church setting, in a district, or at the national level?
the youth camp happens at the national level.
Mm.
It
And how
happens at
many
the
young people attend
national
that?
level. Well, you don't specify how many people because normally it's based on the resources that are available.
Mm.
So
So
let's
does it?
say if the national is the ability to have more delegates at the youth camp, but if you haven't got enough resource, then you don't get, I mean, a huge number at the youth camp. But the beauty, I mean, the beauty of the youth camp is the annual conference has always been passionate about the youth camp. Because, I mean, as I told you from the good news, here you have people trying to have different attachments. And the church is really curious, to get the young people on the right path. Because if you miss the young people at this stage, then it will be hard for you to
Right.
get them. Sure.
Last year, how many people attended the youth camp?
We had over 500 to 600.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But the point is, again, it is a mandatory thing to be done. But there are some times that we just don't get to have the youth camps. There are
Right.
sometimes you don't have the youth camps. Just as I've said again, it all kind of depends on the executive and their effort in getting things done. If you get a vibrant executive, I mean the national executive, then it's obvious that you are bound to have your youth camp because they are to coordinate with the directorate. The directorate will be on your conference, then you get the activity executed. But if they lag along the line and there are other activities that the directorate and the annual conference are bound to do, then there are these cases where they differ their programs for the following year.
Mm. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I think you talked about sometimes the youth and the young people get involved with the organizational part of the youth organization, and sometimes they go through some political stuff like, this is my friend, I'm going to support him, that person is not my friend. And so in terms of leadership development for young people, how is the youth and young adult organization helping develop young leaders, and how is the church supporting those young leaders in Sierra Leone?
Well, the youth and young adult organization. Now, I have to mention something because there has been a division. Finally, there have been a divorce between the youth and young adults. They now operate separately. They operate separately at the moment. So you have the youth running their affairs separately and the young adults running theirs separately, as the case is. But the youth and young adults have been really kind of working together towards national development because they have got a good representation at the Council of Churches in Sierra Leone. The Council of Churches in Sierra Leone is an organization that's really worked, denomination-wise, to see how best, they can salvage challenges in society, to provide relief services when we've got disasters in the country. So there is this aspect of the youth desk wherein the youth represent the church, and as a result, the youth get involved in national development. And as well, the youth have got some projects at the right. For instance, the youth fund, from time to time, funds, some projects that they put forward to them. And in their implementation as well, you get to see that the young people from this part of the world get to impact society in a way. So, and most importantly, there is this idea of ministering through songs, and music is a kind of ministry that the young people are passionate about. And the young people really, I have to say strongly, that are passionate about singing from this part of the world. As a result, they've been singing around the country and making impacts as well through music.
Mm. That that sounds like a lot of ministries going on with young people. And so
Yeah.
I would also love to ask you about the faith and the formation of discipleship among young people. How do young people get to know Jesus and get deeper into their faith?
Well, the structure is not as systematic as one may be thinking. But the fact is, baptism is one of the means through which the young people get to know the things of the church, because each and every young person is expected to be baptized
Mm-hmm.
in the church. And you've got baptismal classes. So with the
Mm.
baptismal classes, you are taught the things that are expected of you as a Christian, and the beliefs of the church, and how you should conduct yourself as a Christian, and how you should as well conduct yourself to the non-Christian, in order for people to see the light in you. So baptism is one key thing through which the young people get to embrace or get to practice the things of Christ. And secondly, as I told you, at the good news level, the different classes that we get on the daily, every Sunday, is a kind of important contact again. Because when you get to the class, the teachers are deliberate in their presentations. They give you things that they think would really get you prepared for your faith. So through the good news stage as well, you get to know Christ, and you further get to embrace the things of God. Getting to the youth and young adults, they are fun-based tutorials. For instance, there is this quiz competition that we get from time to time as well at the youth level. You are tested on questions from the Bible, events from the Bible, characters from the Bible. So through the quiz competition, the young people have been forced to go and read in a competitive manner in order to come and answer some of these questions that are normally asked from the quiz competitions. So it has been a fun way, but it has been impactful anyway. And from time to time, again, some young people are given preaching assignments. They're given preaching assignments. And with that, we contact the Bible as well, and we get to know things. And, lately, the issue of the book of discipline and how it conflicts with the scripture, have been a contentious issue. And with that, the young people have been forced as well to go and read the Bible, to really see how the Bible, aligns with the things that are enshrined in the book of discipline.
Mm-hmm.
So these are some of the ways in which we've contacted the faith and the values that spur us in the church have been set here.
Right. Thank you for sharing those. And I'm also interested in terms of young people growing in their faith. Part of that is that they get to share their faith with their friends and maybe with their classmates or neighbors. What are some of the ways that young people in Sierra Leone are engaging their community or engaging others in sharing their faith?
Yes, there have been various means of sharing our faith in Sierra Leone as young people, particularly in society, because we've got different denominations, and there has been the structure of the campus ministries that is a part of the youth and young adults function. The campus ministries, of course, exist in all United Methodist schools, right? And they are always giving delegates and observer rights when you get our national gatherings. So whether you are United Methodist or not, you're always welcome to our national gatherings. So from our point of having children from our schools, United Methodist schools, we've influenced them in that way. And they've been taught, because when they go around, they see the things we do, the manner in which we interact, and the impact that we create in society. So we've influenced them through the faith in that aspect. And there are other schools as well in which we've introduced the campus ministries, particularly the universities, that do not really have any dealings with our denomination. For instance, we've got the campus ministries existing in the Frabe College, the Jala University, and the Mutimagai College. These are doing well as well because we get to have people that are not part of our denomination to be part of the campus ministries. We teach the doctrines of John Wesley and the doctrines of the church. Of course, they are one and the same. And they get to know what the United Methodist really stands for, both doctrine-wise and in our common practice in society. So we've influenced society, the young people particularly, through the campus ministries, and it has been helpful. And as I told you again, whenever we go out offering relief services, during the Ebola, we are out there encouraging people, to take precautionary measures against the virus disease. At the mudslide, we are there as well offering relief services. We had a mudslide which was very disturbing. And we've had several other issues in which the church has been of help relief-wise. And, the young people have championed because we are young and energetic. So we've mostly championed these causes. And whenever we go out, our conduct and the things we say have been helpful in, relaying the faith to non-United Methodists.
Right. And I know that the church in Sierra Leone and also in Liberia and even in the Congo have been very active in providing relief and assistance to victims of Ebola. And I think that's a really good testimony of the impact of the church in addressing the needs of the community. Now,
it is.
How about in terms of relating with other faiths? You've talked about inviting young people from other denominations in working together. Mm-hmm. How about with other faiths? Can you talk about the composition of the society in Sierra Leone? Are there other faiths there? And how is that dynamic? How's the relationship between the faiths in your country?
Well, the faith of the United Methodist Church and its provision for the ecumenical practice has been going on well because we've put that to play in the strictest sense. And as I told you earlier, we're part of the Council of Churches in Sierra Leone. And the Council of Churches in Sierra Leone is a composition of different denominations. So when we get there at different denomination level, we talk the things of the society, troubling and disturbing things, and how we can be of help to society. So you get to have different denominations working towards development, and Sierra Leone has been of immense help in that aspect. And currently our bishop serves as the head of that organization. And I have been working as well on the legislative committee because the formation of the youth desk has to be made tangible, and they're asking that we work on a working document. So I am heading the legislative committee, and we had the bylaw put together already. So we'll be getting that shared right around the country, wherein we can have things going on from different denominations, so that if a thing happens and Sierra Leone would want, say for instance, United Methodists would want to be of help, would just channel our issue to the Council of Churches in Sierra Leone, and we all go meet and see whether what Sierra Leone wants to embark on as a faith-based church is really worth it. And at that, we all put forces together. And the most important part of the Council of Churches in Sierra Leone is that we are not only focused on working with Christian denominations, but we work as well with Muslim organizations and Muslim-based institutions. So, that has really kind of established a kind of tolerant religious practice in Sierra Leone as a whole. And Sierra Leone has been playing a vital part in getting that done.
All right. In terms of your work with young people in Sierra Leone, what do you see are the challenges for young people, not just for young people in the church, but for young people in Sierra Leone in general?
Well, there are lapses. There are lapses. Um, Basically, because the young people, I mean, from time to time encounter challenges. Yeah. But I mean, the faith of the young people is not as wavering as it was some
Mm.
5, 10 years back. You know, we are strong in faith. I mean, we conduct ourselves well because, you know, we learned a huge lesson from the civil war that we had in Sierra
Mm.
Leone, you know, some 20 years or more back. So with that, you know, each and every person learned their lessons, and the idea of being a part of faith that guides your conduct has been a commonplace. And, you know, the Sierra Leone conference in its outreach has been of immense help as well in attracting young people. As I told you, the campus ministries has been that tool that we've used in getting the young people to the United Methodist fold. And we have also attracted non-United Methodists, and our role in other ecumenical institutions, you know, have really helped us as well as young people greatly. So, so far, so good. We've scored successes as young people because our faith, though it wavers at times, but I mean, it's a gradual thing. We build on that. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, it's not just young people. Sometimes even older people would their faith would waver depending on some circumstances in life or some challenges
Yeah,
that
of
they face,
course, of
right?
course,
So,
of course, of course. You know, yeah, the interesting part of it is that, you know, you get people to get closer to their faith, particularly when there is a kind of disaster in the
mm,
country. I could remember people fasting nationally when we had the Ebola because the
wow.
government dedicated days of fasting, you know, in the country. So people looked up to their faith more than even the government then. And that was the situation where you had a church, the United Methodist Church, you know, sending text messages, you know, of encouragement and hope to both United Methodists and non-United Methodists. So it was really it was of help
Mm,
generally.
mm,
So, I mean, the faith was sold in that kind of light. Until date, we are held in high esteem. But as I told you, you know, as the disaster elapses and things get better, people begin to get a little off from the things of the faith.
mm-hmm,
But at the back of each and every person's mind is the fact that there is a faith that I hold on to, and
mm-hmm,
at least it connects me with my God. So the commitment, you know, may not be as immense as it should be, but, you know, even the casual way of doing it is there, and it's appreciable because it is that which really encourages you to continue to evangelize to people
mm-hmm,
because they are not completely, you know, opposed to the things of the faith. You just get them, you know, off the things of the faith based on the engagements and all. But I mean, with evangelism, you get them back from time to time.
mm. Right. Speaking of evangelism, how does evangelism work in in the church in Sierra Leone, especially for young people? Do people? You've mentioned the revival services, and are
Mm.
there other ways that evangelism happens?
Yes, evangelism happens in various ways in Sierra Leone. There are groups in churches, particularly with the young people, who've got home cells from time to time. But each and every organization has their own way of doing it. But in our church, we call it home cell.
Home cell.
The home cell.
Mm-hmm.
That is
How does that
where,
work?
well, we just get each and every person in the organization to choose a date that you prefer for us to go and visit you in the home, to pray with you, share the word of God, and maybe after that have fun. It happens like that. So there is almost like a timetable for the home cell in every youth and young adult organization, in every local church, wherein you get to visit the homes, and most of the time, again, we use this means of home cell to raise funds as well for the organization. We get to your house, tell you the challenge of the church or the local fellowship and things you want to embark on. You pray, right, and get ideas to how you can raise funds for the church as well. It happens that way as well. So that is one way, we go about evangelism. One of the ways to go about evangelism.
All right. Yeah.
As a
Home cell.
local
That's
church.
I think that's an interesting way of doing it too. Visiting people in their houses or inviting them over. And I think that's a way to show them that the members of the church care for them. So
that is it.
Right.
That is it.
So I want to go back to your role with the West Africa Central Conference Youth and Young Adult Organization. So I know that you were elected, I think, was it 2016 or even before that? So can you talk about your role there and what you do and some of the ministries that happen through that?
Yeah, well, I was elected in 2017 in Abidjan. Yeah. When we took over as an executive of the WACC, we had a kind of structure, a mandate that we had to go by. But again, we saw the need of adding up to that which we met. So it really had to do with first establishing a good communication, because we only meet once after every 4 years. So all the things of the WACC are done online, or if we can just source the fund, we can visit the nearest country. But it has always been online meetings and online planning. So we had as an agenda at WACC level that we are all to channel our challenges to the executive and see how best we can raise funds in ministering, the things of the church, because, the church stands for so many things, injustices, and seeing that, we alleviate a whole lot of mishaps in society. So first that we agreed on was that we know in West Africa particularly, we've suffered war. Sierra Leone has been through that. Liberia has been through that. So looking at that, we know the tendency of war comes up whenever there are elections. So as WACC, we decided that, to help as a church, we were to embark on rallying, wherein we get peace-packed messages. We rally around the main, violent hotspots in the countries with peace message, encouraging the young people to go to the polls and vote and get back to their places without causing any harm to each other. Because we believe most of the violence really happens because the young people are not properly orientated. So orientating the young people in our various countries was one thing that we took up as an executive, and we succeeded in implementing that. We did that for Sierra Leone when we had our last elections. The regional missionary Antifinda, through the Women's Initiative program, funded one of our proposals. So we embarked on peace rally in the country, particularly Sierra Leone. Freetown, the capital of Sierra Leone, because Freetown is the most populated city in Sierra Leone, and the tendency for violence is always rife. So we embarked on a peace rally right around the city, dishing out placards, handbills with messages of peace and how Christ loves them and how they should still put, and that they were to belong to their various colors and their various affiliations. It was only that they were to maintain peace after elections. So we engaged the media as well on that. We went to radio stations. We aired the message as well. We had jingles playing countrywide,
Oh,
and
wow.
it was important. Yeah, we did that, and it was successful because we went through the elections and there was nothing. Even though we had some bits of violence, but it was not as grave as it used to be. So that was an important project that WACC embarked on, and it went a long way. It really went
Right.
a long way. We had the same plans for Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria happens to be a bigger country.
Right.
We put plans in place, but we could not get the right funding.
Mm-hmm.
Auntie Finda, as
Right.
usual, as she did for Sierra Leone, did her bit. She gave what she had. But the church in the annual conference in Nigeria could not walk up to their parts. So we could not embark on theirs. But we have got that as a policy. Whether Senesie is there as chairperson or not, it's now a policy that whenever any of these countries are to have elections, we are to have peace rallies in order to help alleviate violence. So that's one success that we've scored so far in ministry.
I'm also curious, Senesie, you are a layperson, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
And how do you manage your commitments with the church? Do you have a work outside the church? Are you doing this as a full-time volunteer? So how are you able to do this on a sustainable basis?
Well, I don't have a work outside specifically. There is nothing engaging me as in a vocation as it is. Because, it's just the fact that when you take up duty, you have to be committed to it. I think it's at that basis. And alongside really the act of working with the young people, I am a student currently. So I have been, multitasking, like being in school and doing the job here.
Right. And
so that has been the.
But that sounds good. I know that there are a lot of young people from around the world too who do this on the side, whether they're working or they're students, and sometimes there are also people like you who are almost full time in the work that they do for the church, but they are not like paid staff. Which I know that in developing or underdeveloped countries, it's difficult for the church to pay staff. Is that your experience
It's very
in Sierra Leone?
difficult.
Right.
It is very difficult. It's a troubling thing. And that was the main reason why we almost lost the young people's business running in Senegal. I was just going to make mention of Senegal. We had that as a serious case as well. And we were there before we went to Liberia. The young people's business was almost crumbling in Senegal. They could not participate, neither send correspondences and all. So we had to visit them. And we found out that it was because there was no existing youth and young adult directorates as we have in Sierra Leone, Liberia, Cameroon, and Ivory Coast. So we encouraged Bernard, who is, currently chipping in, as the case may be, because he cannot just leave his work to just handle the youth and young adult business full time. So we encouraged him to, from time to time, see how best he can call the young people to attention in order for them to be able to sustain the things of the young people. But what we did was we as well mobilized some support with the young women, the Women's Initiative, Regional Missionaries Desk, with Auntie Finda and we left $1,000 with them, which was not too much, but we really had to get something started. So we asked them that funds are not forthcoming, but the fact that we have to further the things of the young people's business and the region was of immense importance. So we told them that we had to put that money into some use, to embark on some entrepreneurship scheme in order for them to multiply that and get the young people's business running. Because, I mean, as I told you, others may be grappling, but theirs was terrible. Theirs was terrible.
Right.
We had to really pay some attention to them, and we had to get them back on their feet, and they are cooperating. And some even called me that they applied for the regional, Global Youth Fellow Mission program that is ongoing now. So, I mean, it tells us that, I mean, they are back on their feet and they are now connected with things of the youth and young adult business global wise.
My final question for you, Senesie, is given all the challenges, all your experiences serving and working with young people in the UMC in Sierra Leone, what are your hopes and dreams for the young people and the church in Sierra Leone?
Well, we hope for the very best because at the moment, you know, there are threats of division and people are confused, people are hopeless. And I mean, we hope that whatever the outcome of whatever decision that is to be reached does not affect the young people's business, because so much work have been put into what we've got now. So we hope that decisions from wherever or whatever I'm pausing do not affect that which we have worked for over the years. That is one thing. And I hope and pray that we will work and network in a way wherein we don't allow our emotions as young people to overwhelm that which should get us or hold us together as a church. So it's our prayer that we stick together without allowing our indifferences to affect the youth ministry in both West Africa and Sierra Leone, because it's important. Wherever, if it affects Sierra Leone, it affects the whole of West Africa. It affects anywhere in West Africa, wherever in the world, it affects Sierra Leone. So it's our hope and prayer that we stay together, because, I mean, we've started hearing of mandates changing, institutions not functioning as they used to be, and some funds that will not be forthcoming. I mean, if these happen, they will stifle the zest of the young people or the zeal of the young people, as the case may be.
Right. Thank you for sharing your dreams, Senesie. And I know that something big is coming for you as well. In this coming General Conference of 2020, you are going to be one of those who will deliver the young people's address, right? So that's something to look forward to. If people want to connect with you and learn more about the ministries that you do in Sierra Leone and in West Africa, where is the best place for people to find you?
Well, I'm in Sierra Leone.
Okay.
I'm in Sierra Leone.
How about online?
I'm in Sierra Leone. You can find me in Sierra Leone, always.
But airfares would be expensive though. So how about online?
Except that is it. Online. Yeah, where that is it. I'm online, always online.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the best place. Yeah, that's the best place. When it's not in bodily presence, then it has to be online.
Okay. So is that going to be on Facebook? They just look for Senesie Timothy Rogers?
Yes.
Okay.
No, Senesie Rogers on Facebook. Just Senesie Rogers. Yeah.
Again, thank you so much, Senesie. It's been a pleasure hearing about your journey and the many, many ministries that you are doing with the young people in Sierra Leone and in West Africa. So blessings on your studies and your ministries.
Thanks so much.
This podcast has been a production of Discipleship Ministries, an agency of the United Methodist Church. Visit all our podcasts at podcasts.umcdiscipleship.org.